All right, guys, good morning. The transition is not going to be as smooth as I would like, but I have to make sure that we have audio and no music. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Texas girl. Thank you for reminding people to give the thumbs up. It's a YouTube channel, but I'm not too concerned about traffic. Well, I am concerned about traffic. The more people we can talk to, the better we can do. Epic, how's my sound? How's my video quality? Epic, Andrew, uh, to his friends here on the channel, but Epic Forever has accepted the very important role of moderator. But not only moderator, he continues the conversation on the chat line during the live feed, because I get a little long-winded in my discussions, and a lot of the stuff he and most of the other people have already heard, so they're like, oh God, I got to hear this again. So Andrew does a great job in moderating the chat. He has also taken on the role as executive producer, so he lets me know if the volume is bad, if I'm doing stupid stuff. So if I keep looking up, I'm looking up at the chat screen. So this is going to be a half hour long, by the way. So just give you a heads up. This is going to be a half hour long chat. But everything is starting, and it's kind of like I said, and Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew and I do not know each other off of this channel. So we don't email each other back and forth when I'm offline, because frankly, I don't have the time. I have to do research, I have to work, I have to enjoy beautiful days as they come, and I have other things that I have to look at outside and to do my research, which is the angle of the sun, some of the megaliths that I work with that are here in the Spanish coast. And if you get bored in between streams and whatever, look up megalithic rocks in Spain and in England, and you'll see how much they match. So there was travel between the British Isles and the coast of Spain, and I think during megalithic times they actually could walk between them, because Doggerland was there. So the seas were a lot lower before the Great Flood 12,000 years ago. Coffee time. Cheers, everybody. I'm a coffee drinker. American style coffee. Espresso is just awesome, but I like drinking my coffee slow, long, and watered down. No sexual innuendos with that, guys. I know what you're thinking. Some of you are just filthy. So as I talked in many earlier streams, around the 20th is when I think we'll start seeing and feeling events. So the leak channel, is let me pull this up on here. The leak channel is spaceweather.com. So we talked about that yesterday at length, about how a government special ops disinformation program happens, because as info ops, and when I say info ops, I'm talking about spies and spy agencies. The media pawns are just such great helpers to spies and spycraft, but they don't move with the speed that you need them to often, and they don't print what you need very often. They'll do a little bit of it. The sensationalized stuff, that'll get to the headlines quickly. And I mean, we've seen it work with General Flynn, and exactly how these sensational headlines hit the Washington scene, because it's FBI, CIA, different agents leaking information to the media. So the Washington, D.C. is a sieve. Washington, D.C. is a sieve. It is virtually impossible to keep a secret in Washington, D.C. unless you are just so well insulated and away from the from the elite crowd, which is really kind of uh, sad and frustrating, but that's the way it goes. Washington, D.C. operates on a whole other set of principles than the rest of America. Completely different. The way we think Washington, D.C. works, they're controlling us, they're Jew, da la, and they've got the great plan. Man, no, it is a constant cocktail party, and it's a who's who, and it's just a constant. It's just to work in government and to run our government is to try to ride the back of a dragon and try to direct it because there's just so many moving parts and most of it's just based on evil and rumor and innuendo and political control. And then you have the Pentagon, which is the stalwart of U.S. government, quite frankly. Those guys, for the most part, do not move by the political winds, but they are political operatives, but they try not to move by the political winds. And then in that kind of um, insulated bureaucracy, you can, have your Project Blue Book. You can have your U-2 spy planes. You can have you can have your Blackbirds. You can insulate yourself within the military community and be and hopefully keep a secret. But we see those even leak as well. I would think that many of the UFO video leaks that came out, those were authorized leaks by whatever Project Blue Book is nowadays. Epic. Thank you for the thank you. I will buy a bottle of wine. Thank you, Andrew. Very kind of you. Yes, people have been asking me in emails, not in chat, because it's not. How can we help you? No, I'm not going to make a Patreon account. I'm not going to do any of those things because I don't have to, and I enjoy my job. This is not going to become my work, but I've monetized my channel, so you can do some uh, um, what is it called? Super chats up there. So Andrew, you've been one of the first since the beginning of this process started a month and a half ago, and you are the first super chat. I will buy a very good Rioja with that, an Obia Crianta, and I will toast you with it, my friend. I will do that today. And it'll be part of tonight's toast. So, and let me make a note of that to make sure that I get that done because I have a lot to do today. So we have the start of the electrical events, and it's being leaked by the same place that everything is being leaked by, spaceweather.com. We haven't gotten any good information, any good pictures, any good data from NASA, JPL, or any of the websites. Any of the good stuff that we've gotten from Atlas and all of the absolutely epic pictures and renditions from our good Twitter friend Michael Yeager, who just keeps coming up with, I mean, the money pictures, the money shots of both Swan and Comet Atlas. And part of the disinformation campaign was Comet Atlas disintegrated. And now I have a link in the show notes right down below that was a lie, obviously. Express UK has an article today that, oh my goodness, scientists are surprised once again. Oh, this unpredictable Comet Atlas has come back together, guys. Who would have thunk? That's just crazy town, huh? Boy, this Atlas, wild comet. Hey, Atlas, when things get, settled down, I want to party with you, cowboy. You know how to go wild in the sky. You got these scientists just, whoa, spinning circles, wild man. Party, cowboy. So that's bullet number 2 in the show notes. Bullet number 3, when you read it now, all of you that have been following the project for the last, I can buy 3. Yes, Epic. Oh, Farrell, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the $10. Man, very kind of you guys. Don't get me crying. Don't get me emotional. It's gonna happen. I'm Spanish. I do that. We get emotional. We cry. I'd hug you guys, but social distancing and all that. Um, so, those of you who've really been following the project now and understand that the whole ice concept is a fabrication, it's a fairy tale, go to link number 3, this Axios column, this Axios column, saying Hubble telescope uh, um, shows the disintegration, the great disintegration, and and all the article says is the comet's made of ice, and the ice core can become unstable. There's no science to back that up. There's no proof. That's just made up. That's made up. That is absolutely made up. Uh, I can't. I don't even know where to begin with that. So, read that Axios comment and laugh out loud. If you are doubtful about any of my science that I'm putting forth, number 4 Sun update will tell you where we are. You can measure your own shadow and go to the tables on the internet, and there's several sites that gives you the calculations and what they should be, and it's pretty much 40 to 50 centimeters off at noon, and then it gets greater during the day. So you can do this at any time of day, but we've been trying to do these measurements around noonish, and it's 40 to 50 centimeters off. So the angle of the sun is definitely off, and you can measure the angle of the sun for yourself and compare it to the tables. There's 2 great YouTube videos in the show notes. So that's the foundation of what I'm talking about today, and I'm focusing on, because we have a lot going on, and the events are starting. So, especially for you, Andrew, who are following this as close as I am. So it's the slow drip of information. So right now it's 5:12 a.m. in the morning. This is how a psyops project works. This is how a psychological project works. I know there was a Absolute thinks that I am a government plant, and I keep talking about government and how much I worked in government and experience I have in government, especially in the political level. Guess what? A psyops plant would not associate himself with anything government. He would be anti-government, and he sure wouldn't be giving the guys any credit. And I'm saying thank you. No, what the government has done to keep a lid on this is what a good government does. When the best example I can give is an example that every family experiences. You know, a family starts to go through divorce. The beginning birthing pangs of an upcoming divorce is not something that is talked about in the family. It is felt, and the two parties really try to keep a lid on really the animosity that they have for each other if they have children, or if they have friends, or if they have social circles. You just try to keep a lid on it as long as possible. You smile in public, nobody knows what's going on. In private, he's like, I hate you. Stop throwing things at me. No, I'll call the police. La, 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 la. And behind the closed doors, nobody knows what's going on. It's the same with government, people. It's the same with government. We've already seen if they tell us that UFOs are real. People are like, look, I got to get to work. I don't have time for this. It's sure UFOs, Martians, whatever. Show me them, then we'll talk. So no, you can't be honest with them. So the psychological operations began when Comet Atlas came in the scene, and you start your leaks in England, Andrew, so that they can start then manifesting themselves in American press. Woohoo! Yes, thank you for that. That highlight. Comets are not ice. Read the article, Andrew, and laugh out loud as you do. Laugh out loud as you do. Thank you for that extra bump of pride and excitement. Thank you so much, my friend. Yeah, so spaceweather.com, Michael Yeager, and the Twitter and his Twitters. If you need me to put that in the show notes, I will. Ooh, stop. Stop, Tim. All right. Oh, golly. You guys are just absolutely great. So, yeah, we have everything kind of coalescing, coming together. Whoa. Have I stopped streaming? Hold on, let me work on. Hey, sorry. Seeing if I'm having some technical difficulties here. So I watched the show on my iPad, and that helps make sure that I'm transmitting well. So give me a second while I pull everything back up and turn the volume down. And again, thank you, Andrew, for that nice bump. All right. So yeah, tonight you can see both comets, guys. Tonight you can see both comets perfectly. I did last night, and I was just amazed at what I saw. Getting back to the whole psyops things, Absolute thinks that I am a government agent in a government plant, and that's fine. But government agents, government plants try not to act like government agents, try not to act like government plants, and they don't dump out their political resume to you. So, so that is just the functionality of how a government works and doesn't work. Um, so this is a brilliant psyops. Again, Andrew and everybody, you start the leak in England because, you know, I mean, come on, guys. If you are an American writer, you wish to be British. If you're a journalist, I mean, when you're in England or you hear the British speak, and or you read British fine writing, I mean, that's just you falling all over that. So American press follows British press um, like a dog sniffs another dog's butt. I mean, that's just how it is. So you can start a leak in England, and you don't do it in the big guys. You do it in the Express. You do it in the Daily Mail. You certainly are not going to do it through the BBC. That's not the place to do it. I mean, it's that right there. It goes through a meat grinder, and so if you're trying to leak something to you have to know what media to use and who won't go through the. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Epic. Yeah, I mean we're hitting stride, aren't we? So yes, this is just the way a PsyOps operation works. You start the leaks in England, and then they go up the chain to America, and they first go local media because you're first going to see it in the local media because that's where the people that really are aspiring to do something with their lives, and they're in that right in the middle. Oh, Andrew, you rock. They're right in that middle area. We're like, I'm climbing the ladder. Where can I find something that's going to make a difference and going to get people attention? Oh, look at this in the Daily Mail. Oh, very, very fancy. Grey Poupon and a fine tea. Thank you very much. Pip pip. All right. So I mean, this makes a journalist day in the middle market. When they can find a cool story like this, and especially somebody that's into the sci-fi scene, and they can bring it up, that stuff's just vacuumed in. And at that point, you really don't have to worry about your sourcing. So the source, the fact that the source is, I know I'm making you, I'm hitting all the cylinders, Andrew. Thank you so much. You are a gentleman and a scholar for supporting this channel like that. We owe you. It's the other way around. This channel owes you so much. But yes, so that's how a leak starts that gets to America. So that is coming from the Daily Mail. That is coming from the Express. Is credibility enough to move up the news chain of America? So once it's picked up in the middle markets, your local newspaper, something very interesting has happened that has surprised scientists with Comet Atlas coming up at 11. What is Comet Atlas, guys? Guys, hey, anybody hear me? Control room. It's a comet? Okay. I need a better print than that, all right? I need something that makes me look like I know what I'm talking about. Give me some, yeah, all right. Do it just to do a copy and paste from the original article, and we can cite it later. All right, guys. All right, going live in 3, 2. So that's how a leak happens. The sensational stuff, the stuff that is just sourced to Daily Mail. It doesn't really matter, and then it gets up into major markets, and major markets are uh, where the news starts to spread and the Mandela effect begins, guys. The Mandela effect is not that you're having a different experience, is that the media, through either news or entertainment, has set something in the pop culture. This is what we used to call pop culture back in the day. So that is what the Mandela effect is. So suddenly, today, everybody's waking up to the news that Comet Atlas has somehow come back together. Scientists are surprised, and then the local media are going to start to pick up on this solar storm that is occurring. And there's no such thing as a solar storm. A solar flare does not happen like they say. It doesn't even pass Mercury. These solar events are very localized to the sun. It's just a spark. And sparks, if they don't have anywhere to go, they just come right back to its source. They lose their charge. Their charge changes and they return. So what we see as a solar flare is another Birkeland current. Please, do we have an electrical engineer? Yeah, Kumar. This magical comet, huh? What you think about that, boys? Girls? This crazy wild comet. You know you want to party with Atlas. I want to party with Atlas. Yeah, he fell apart, man. Who doesn't fall apart? But Atlas pulled it together, guys. Atlas is the underdog of comets. Just when you guys thought Atlas was over, you know you counted him out. You don't know. Don't start to. I know, and you too. You counted Atlas out. I didn't. Andrew didn't. Andrew knew. Andrew was right there with the whole show. He's like, it's there. It's there. You never gave up on Atlas. I never gave up on Atlas. We're on tape, both of us, Andrew. So, Epic and the Breadcrumbs Project, we are both on tape saying no. I see it every night. It's right out my window. It's right out my kitchen window, and in Kent, I don't know where you see it from, Andrew, every night. So, Anthony, yes, it's in the show notes. Look in the look under the information under this live chat. So if you open the description, I think it's called the description. I have links to all that I've just talked about right now. It's in the prophecy. It's a Hopi prophecy. We have the two Kashinas. I wish I had a Hopi translator that could give me the good pronunciation. But we have the two Kashinas dancing in the sky. I mean, literally. Andrew, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. But when you look at the comets now, I mean, they're twinkly little things. They're twinkly little green things. They're definitely dancing in the sky. And they're coming together. And they're coming together over Venus, man. It is just the most amazing thing to watch. So, guys, have a party tonight. Have a Venus viewing party. Have a Venus Atlas Swan viewing party. It's prophetic. The names alone are prophetic, like Andrew's saying. All right, where are we on time? Oh, geez. All right, I've got to start wrapping things up here. I think I've left enough information with you guys. and we have show notes, and you can talk about it. But please, 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 everybody in the comment thread, again, thank you for all the tips and the bling. And there's going to be a party, and the wine bottle is going to be epic. It's going to be epic. The wine bottle that I'm going to buy with this. So look, please, everybody, go to the Axios article. Epic. Andrew, please go to that article first and give it a read, and then please come back and laugh on the channel so I can watch it during my appointment, um, and I can do it, um, because it's just worth laughing about. So go to the Axios article that talks about the comets being made of ice, and then look at the news leaks that have come out, and just know that on the 20th today they're starting to warn about a solar storm. So they're not going to attribute this initially to the comet's electrical fields initially beginning to interact and generate these electrical events close to our planet. No, 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 no. It's a solar event. Uh, and it's not going to be up to the last minute that scientists are going to notice something, are going to be very surprised as to what Comet Swan and Comet Atlas are doing. That might be tomorrow mornings, because we're closing in on the 23rd really fast. And if you look at the skylive.com, then you're going to see that yeah, they're closing in very, very quickly. Um, thanks, Andrew, for going to look. There is a minute delay between what you post, at least a minute, minute and a half delay between what you post in the chat room and I read live. So please notice that. And as you notice also, well, not you notice, I don't know if you see it on your end, but whenever someone does do a donation, does give me a tip, which is the new feature that is on the page, which is a super chat, that gets highlighted. So I'll see those items immediately. And Andrew has made it clear, crystal clear, that he wants me to drink a good bottle to celebrate what's coming. So the birthing pains are here. Oh, and I also left a link to the NOAA website. I left a link to the NOAA website where under the first show notes bullet, it begins. There's the Express article UK talking about the weather forecast and the impending solar storm, and it's coming from spaceweather.com, the leaker source, the source of all the leaks about anything to do with Atlas and Swan is coming from spaceweather.com. You go to NOAA.gov, and they have no alert about the solar storm coming. They have something in the fifth about just kind of an alert, and these things kind of have been going with Comet, Atlas, and Swan affecting the fields, the electrical fields, but they have nothing about this solar storm where we're going to see the auroras start to light up really strongly, and the aurora borealis and the auroras are the strong uh, uh, electrically charged ions from the sun. Sometimes we get bigger blasts from the sun of electrically charged ions, what they call solar winds, that interact with our atmosphere, and we actually have a magnetic shield around our planet that protects us from a lot of those super strong ion bursts from the planet, from the sun. And our planet really has a shields up Scotty type of thing, where our shields protect us from a lot of the electrical ionization from the sun. And everybody says radiation, but it's not radiation. If there was a problem with radiation in the atmosphere, well, I mean, you'd have the Skylabs covered in anti-radiation, but they don't. The skin of these space vessels is is thin. I mean, it's like this cup thin. So, so there's not that much radiation in space because it's electrical. We have an electrical sun, we have an electrical atmosphere, and we have a highly ionized charged particle space in the inner solar system from Jupiter from Mars in. I mean, this is a supercharged electrical environment. So those two comets are interacting with those charges, and they're green. They're giving off green light, so they're metallic somehow. They're not rock. They're metallic in nature, and they are going on their own trajectories. They have their own. They obviously have their own navigation abilities, and they obviously have their own propulsion abilities because they are going at ridiculous speeds, 93,000 miles per hour, and they haven't even reached perihelion yet. So I mean, that's coming into the sun. You get a good speed, but it's when you get that whip around the sun that you get the high speed. But they're coming in, and they're not coming into the sun. That's the one thing that everybody has to look at this. Here's the big. All right, I'm going to be late for an appointment, but that's fine. Here's the big news. Here's the breaking news. That these two comets, and this is what nobody's pointing out, the breaking news here on the Breadcrumbs Project is that the perihelion of these two comets is not the sun. The perihelion of these two comets is the Earth. So they're not doing a trajectory over the sun. Their trajectory is doing a perihelion over the Earth. They're not attracted by the gravity of the sun. It helps. But their destiny, their perihelion is the planet Earth. All right, going back into the. Thank you so much for the support, Epic. Both financials, moral, and being part of the management team. Thank you so much. Oh, let's not even get started on the Schumann resonance. Yeah. Do you think the MSM will label this as yes, Kunmar? Welcome to the club and reading the mainstream media. Absolutely. This will be a coronal mass ejection, which doesn't exist. I mean, it exists, but it's just a Birkeland current. It's a simple Birkeland current. Yeah, it's Birkeland current. Yes, of course, this will be a CME, which doesn't exist because again, the surface of the sun. Look it up. If I'm wrong, please tell me and laugh at me. The surface of the sun is roughly 6,000 degrees Kelvin. Okay. And the corona of the sun, which is what we see, which gives off all the light, is 1,000,000 degrees Kelvin. So we have to put that in absolute in perspectives. It is yes, it's very proportional to what we have going on in the misinformation of our world and how NASA just posts stuff without being able to prove it, and there are no reproducible science that can support what they say about this coronal mass ejection. There is supportable science in electrical engineering that describes all of these phenomena that we see in the sun. Engineers are never surprised. Electrical engineers are not surprised by space stuff because they understand the space stuff now. Those who studied the electrical sun theory and then go look at what the news presents, they see there's no relationship between actual science and what academia talks about. Coronal mass ejection cannot make it past the corona of the sun. Something from the surface of the sun, which is just 6,000 degrees Kelvin, will hit that corona, and you just get close to that corona, and you see it happen. It just loops back down, and it's just a Birkeland current. You have a charge that is getting supercharged up, and it reaches up to the sun, and it has a positive negative generation. We see that also in the way a comet is actually made up. Let's see. So this is makeup. You can look at this as a coronal mass ejection that we see, which is that loop, that something that comes off of the surface of the sun and loops back up. That you can look at this as tip to tip of this comet 67P. This is an actual comet. The ones that we see that give off the white light, this is what they look like, and they're very charged. Comets are very electrically charged, so that's why this is elongated. Is because you have what you have with a lot of comets, a lot of magnets, especially small ones, is you have attract and repelling happening. So I cannot make these two magnets stack perfectly because there's repelling and attraction occurring, and that's what happens in comets. That's what happens in the sun, and so that's what happens around the universe. It's all electric, and it's all electrically charged. But the mainstream media won't allow that to occur. They have to propagate whatever these academics, because it's much more interesting talking to an academic because they can weave good stories like I can. You know, I've talked in public a lot, and I have the ability to tell a good tell. But it's because I'm Southern, and I've done a lot of public speaking, and it's the same thing with scientists, especially in academia. They're used to wowing their students. They're used to getting they look at their faces and they see what works and what doesn't work. So basically, modern academia is a dog and pony show. It's trying to please the crowd. So science now is not a science-based, factual-based profession. It's a feelings-based profession. How the students feel about what you're presenting is more important than the actual science you're presenting. Now, when you get into the engineering fields, engineering and buildings and stuff that you have to create doesn't care about your feelings. They have to make it work. And that's why you don't see a lot of scientists actually working in the engineering fields, but you do see engineering fields, engineers working in the science fields and teaching in universities. They're not teaching, the physics classes. They're not teaching the stuff that a lot, they're not teaching the astronomy classes. They're not teaching, comet science. That's the PhDs, the guys that get, papers that say they can regurgitate well. They're very good at regurgitation, and that's what the PhD. They're smart. I'm not saying they're stupid guys, and I'm not saying that's their fault that they're like that. They're only like that because that's the system they're in. If they start to think for themselves and they start to say, well, Dr. So-and-so, have you heard about the theory of the electrical universe? And a lot of things I've seen that make sense. Oh, geez. Oh, God. Here he goes. Here, I got another guy with the electrical universe. I have a PhD, son. Let me tell you how the universe works. And you can even see it in my comment threads. Someone pops in, watches about 5-6 minutes of my videos, and then they're off to the races lecturing me how a comet's made of ice. I'm a moron. Why? Because their teacher told them that. And they can go to JPL, and they can go to NASA, and they can copy and paste and be a keyboard warrior and put me in my place. All right, I'm late for work. All right, guys, I got to go. Thank you, Epic. Thank you again. Yes. You're more than kind with your support, and I personally appreciate it very, very much. All right, guys, I've got to sign off. I've got to I've got to get to work, and I will pop in later. Definitely at 1 o'clock is our big thing today. So get as many people to tune in as possible, and they can try to tell us we're wrong, but we're not. Peace, guys. We will see you later. The chat stays alive, and I'm turning it over to you, Andrew. Thanks for kicking me off the show, and take over, my friend. Peace. Think good thoughts. Do good deeds. All right, guys. Uh, we are up and live, and hopefully everybody can hear me okay. And all right, let me mute this. I just want to make sure that no music was playing or anything to interfere with the session. All right, I've been in the chat and chatting as much as possible while I was working. I was still delivering good, prompt, and courteous service. So I have high standards, and I expect my customers to get the best and most quality service possible. So, all that being said, though, like everybody else, I've been somewhat distracted. Listen, everybody that's talking about the sun in the thread, hey, hi everybody. Um, the the there, there's no need to even question. If you have any question about what's happening with the sun, in the show notes, in the description box below, are two excellent videos that you can verify yourself. You don't have to freak out what anybody's saying. You can measure yourself, and you can come in on the chat and say, Charles, you are wrong, and here is my proof. And I like that more than me being right all 90% of the time. So yeah, that's my that's my very first thing. If anybody's having doubts of the angle of the sun and what's happening with the sun, then check it out. Then check it out. Um, Check it out yourself. Do your own research. Do your own math, because you can't. If in a sense, NASA's spoon feeding you, I'm spoon feeding you, Data's spoon feeding you, Igor's spoon feeding you, and so it's up to you to start doing some of your own research. And I think that is important. That you being the practitioner of what you say gives you the power to be able to stand in the breach of adversity. So when you can bring proof, that establishes credibility. Not all the time, because there's just people that are going to be uh, disfavorable to your thoughts and what you're talking about. 80% of the time, it's going to be family, because you can never establish a credibility with family. I mean, every doctor will tell you that, your mother pushed you, to be a doctor, and she takes none of your advice after you get I mean, just period. She knows better than you, anyways. You can be a neurosurgeon, and oh, the headache. I know what to do with the headache. Don't. Why are you going there and all? Look, my mother told me, and so, you never have credibility in your family. It doesn't matter what you do, how much you earn, no matter what. Michael, absolutely. You can tell me your sense. Listen, guys, understand there's a delay, a minute and a half delay between what I read and what you say. So right now I'm going to read epics. Ha ha ha, Michael. And I have no idea what he's ha ha haing about, because as I talk, I can't read and it just scrolls right through. And for the 1 o'clock, I think for my 1 o'clock session, it's going to be really busy. So if you have a question that you want me to answer directly, email the breadcrumbs project at gmail.com. I get email alerts through my very fancy iPhone watch. Or if you want to really get my attention, do what Epic's been doing today, which is making donations. And thank you so much, Andrew. That means a lot to me that you really recognize the value of what we're doing here. It's meaningless unless you put your money where your mouth is. Um, the European Union, this has been a fabulous study for me, this whole coronavirus and the response that all the countries have had. But when the European Union was first founded, I was like, that's a great idea. Of course, you know, free commerce between the European nations, get rid of the tariffs, and that infighting is going to be great. And the free movement of Europeans within Europe, that makes sense, guys, because the makeup of Europe is kind of like the United States of America. And then they started doing the project of trying to make Europe like the United States of America. And when those words first came out of the European president, that they were going to compete against the United States of America. Well, you don't do that. When there's competition, I think we've established that we are really a competitive nation. We really are. I mean, I'm not being rude. I'm not being ugly. I have this discussion with Spaniards all the time, and it's just the character and makeup of an American person, where freedom to do whatever the hell you want to do is fundamental to your existence. Um, so yeah, I'll go off on tangents. Look, send me email, guys. Right now, for questions, just send me an email, because there's a lot to talk about. But fundamentally, for the United States of America, we're just competitive. Why? Because we like opportunity. So in every other country except the United States of America, it's really hard to have a career. It's just difficult to have a career. There's what you want to do, and then what you can get a job doing, because the jobs in most European countries are very limited. And the way to get those jobs is also equally and very complicated and very bureaucratically limited. So the concept that we have in the United States, and Andrew, tell me if I'm right or wrong about this. If I'm talking crazy, because you're in Kent, England, which is it's a pretty good sized city. It's pretty active, but it's hard to get a job, much less establish a career. Now, in the United States, what we can do is we have opportunity. You can have multiple careers in the United States. So I was in the Army. That's fine. You can do that in many countries. You have to do that actually. It's compulsory that you do military service. Uh, um, South Korea, you have to spend 2 years in the military if you're a male. In Israel, male or female, you have to spend 2 years in the military. There's just because of the threats those countries are under. And then college for me was a career because I did it really well and didn't have to do anything else and focused in on that. And I didn't do, I did the 5 year route, yeah. But I spent a year in Washington, D.C. So I did a good 12 years of politics without break, going up to Washington, D.C., then coming back with all the experience that I gained and insight and contacts that I made in Washington, D.C. And I really was very successful as a staffer for a Louisiana state senator, and we made a lot of things happen in a positive sense within good budgetary guidelines, building partnerships, private and public partnerships, and really making a rural part of Louisiana do really well. Is my Louisiana guy in the chat room today, right now? Hopefully he is in this evening, but I can name drop crazy in Louisiana and politically speaking as well, just because I did very, very, not successfully financially, but I did what the voters had asked for, and it was very good. But I understood probably 10 years into my political run that you don't stay in politics, and you should not be a bureaucrat. There should be a lot of turnover in government at every level. So there shouldn't be some tired person going, I'm just waiting for my 20 years. No, the running of the state is every voter's responsibility. All right. So as a voter of a country, you're the board members. Either you're the product or you're the consumer in this world. You can put all the spin on socialism, capitalism, blasism, but you're either the consumer or the product. And if you're in the socialist or a communist, you're the product. In capitalism, and if you do it real well, you're the consumer. You can set your value, and you can establish who you are as an actual person if there are so many jobs available. So after 10 years, I said, "Oh my Lord, I can't." I thought I was going to be in government for a career because I wanted to be a civil servant. I'm a do-gooder. At heart, I am just a do-gooder, and I want to do good for everybody. Do good, do good, do good. And then I found out in politics, you get run over. You get slaughtered if you're a do-gooder. You have to stand up for yourself, and you have to have principle. And like Winston Churchill has said, if you haven't made anybody angry, then you haven't stood for anything. Then you've gone with everything anybody else has said. So if you haven't pissed some people off, then you haven't established character, and you haven't studied. Because if you have great knowledge, then you're going to go against the popular the pop culture, the popular culture. Okay. Have you seen the documentary iCup? No, no, Andrew, I haven't. If I get a chance to, I won't have a chance to until after the event, so I'll try to download it this evening. But thank you for the donation, and yes, so if you send, I can prove it now. So if you send and also for Epic, while you manage the chat room this afternoon, because I think it's going to be very busy. If you send a what is it, a super chat, then in my chat screen it lights up in color and it gets my attention immediately. So super chat this evening, because it's gonna be crazy. Email or super chat. Europe doesn't have the opportunities for their citizens that America has. It just doesn't. So once I realized that you have to be a statesman if your state is going to be successful, you can't be dependent on the taxpayer dime. Anybody involved in government should not be involved. You should not allow your hands to step into the treasury. And that's just another discussion. The less hands in the treasury, the better the society. So there's a lot of opportunity in America. It's a big country, and you can go from one end of the country to the other with your citizenship, and you can go to any state and find a job. And if you lose if the economy crashes in one part of the country, well, you go to another part of the country and you make your way, and you get to do well. And so after I got out of politics, I went into telecommunications, telephone systems, and this was before the internet. This was right when America Online started taking off. So I was kind of seeing what was happening with the Macintosh computers. I was I was pretty good with a DOS computer, and I just saw that this was really going to take off. No concept of the internet, but AOL was there. But I just said, this is the future. And leaving the public service, my one goal was I was be able to walk into an office. I could go into an office and fix any machine in an office, which is be it the telephone, typewriter at the time, the little Macintoshes and the PCs, and anything that was low voltage. I wanted to make sure I could fix, because then I knew that my services would always be in demand. So so I just went. My career started with telephone systems, installing telephone systems. And I always start at the bottom because you do. That's where you start always. If you're going to start right, if you're going to do something right, you start at the bottom, and that's how you build your base of knowledge. So when you move up and people try to dominate you and try to knock your career, your base of knowledge is what keeps you growing in your career. So when somebody comes into telecom really young and really keen and knows everything, they don't have the base of knowledge that I have. So that's what's allowed me to move up the whole time. I know cabling. I know how to cable building. I can tell you everything about cable that you'd never want to know, man. Boring. But I know it. I know everything about wireless, Wi-Fi. I can do wireless sniffing. I understand the packets that go through the air. And Epic, you're going to be bored about this, but just a little, inside skinny on how wireless works. If you're on telephone, both people can talk over each other. It's very hard on a cell phone, but if you're on a landline, let's go do this. Let's do this. If you're on a landline, on an old telephone system, on old, ring, ring, hello, hello, grandma, hey, grandma, I hear you, great. Yeah, no, this isn't like the old times. You don't have to scream. It's going through fiber. It's going through a dual redundant fiber ring. It's called a FIDI ring. No. I'm sorry, Grandma. I didn't mean. No. Okay. And when you're talking on an old-time phone, you can talk over each other all you want, and because those connections are analog connections for the most part, and so you have what's called duplexing. You have transmit and receive going in both directions. So there's a pair of wires on a network cable that has a transmit, and there's a pair that has receive, and then there's another two sets of wires that are there for redundancy and for adding to the electromagnetic capabilities of those wires. And this is not the old wires with 4 wires. These are the new wires that are now the old wires with 8 wires. And they've gotten thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker with the capacity to hold the capacity load. So anything that's cabled will always have better telecommunication performance. Always. Always, always, always. Then we get into a cell phone. And a cell phone is just like a Wi-Fi. You use one channel. So for a telephone, you use 2 channels and you have duplexing. One channel is called simplex. Simplexing. Duplex, duo, simple, simplex. So it's like a walkie-talkie. So Wi-Fi and cell phones do just like a walkie-talkie. Send and receive on one channel, and there's on off clicking at each end of the radio signal. And this goes to the radio signal. Once you get off the radio signal and into the fiber backbone, then you're back into full duplexing capability. So your video and the streaming and all the signaling that we're doing right now back and forth goes through a lot faster. What mine packets, Charles? Let's see. Y'all got me on something. I'm gonna have to get you on this stuff. Let me refresh this. What? Okay. What wine am I getting today? Sorry, I missed that. I'm getting a Marquise de Riscal. I'm getting a Marquise de Riscal, and it is. And when I describe it to you, you'll understand why this is such a great. It's a great, incredible, passionate Rioja wine. Marquise de Riscal. It is the story of Spain. So anyways, I build my foundation of knowledge like that. So anything that I've brought to you and I talk about, I start at the bottom and build my knowledge up, and I don't do it academically because the academics fight the real knowledge. The academics fight the engineers, and the engineers don't understand why academics always fights them. It's because they just don't have, they're more artsy-fartsy, they're more liberal arts than they are actual engineers. So in college, honestly, you should either be in an engineering degree or a biochemistry degree or an agricultural degree, but any of the quote unquote sciencey stuff is just built on peer-reviewed papers, which means that there's just a lot of fabrication to support the amount of jobs that are out there. Because if you get to the real science, 3/4 of the scientists working and 3/4 of the professors working in academia wouldn't have jobs because science isn't that complicated. It really isn't. It's just time consuming. So that's what I've done with my studies and what has brought me to these observations that we're going through today. And the news of the day is, you know, we're starting to have electrical manifestations on the auroras. So there's electrical activity starting up in space, and it's all excited due to these two comets. And the other thing is that these guys aren't really doing a perihelion on the sun. Their perihelion is over the Earth. So they may be using the sun for, when we don't know. We don't know because Oumuamua didn't use the sun for any kind of thrust, vectoral thrust at all. It had its own navigation and propulsion. The same as for Borisov. It didn't use the sun at all. So I don't know. Ultimately, I don't know. Say these individuals, ICUP. Oh, Epic, you are so in trouble. Oh, you might be. I might have to put you in one of those little timeouty things. Oh God, you got me. Oh, you got me. Oh. The juvenile jokes are always still the best jokes because I just did not, and he knows I'm on a rant. So how am I going to do that? ICUP. All right, I'm closing the door next time then, bunch of freaks. Just turn the monitor off. Go to another web page. Got me. Oh, so mad. Juveniles. God. If you remember the young ones, Andrew, and I'm sure you do remember the young ones. Yeah, Neil. Oh yeah, Canberra. I fell for that one, hook, line, and sinker. I thought it was like, ooh, all right, iCup. That sounds like an intense, deeply. And no, ICUP. I know what the night's going to be like tonight, people. Not going to go well. I guess we've left our I guess most of us in this group probably never really grew up, so I can't accuse any of y'all of maturity. You certainly can't accuse me of maturity. Um, so we are seeing manifestations of these things. If you don't believe me about the sun, you can go measure it yourself and find out. The and Epic and I both have seen these comets, and tonight we were going to be able to see both comets in the skies. He in England, and I here. Um, and so, uh, you know, that the ability for me to have all of these different careers allows me to be able to digest and give you the opinion pieces that I do. And this is what I wanted to take a minute to break down in this initial um, live that we're having together. And it's just most of us that are following the channel. I didn't announce this, so all 28 of us. Um, Data is a reporter. He doesn't do a lot of analysis on what he's reporting. He finds something interesting and brings it to his channel. And it's interesting because it's not normal news. So he picked up on this whole comet thing individually himself because he was pulling the articles that were leaked in England. So he did his deep dives to the source. And he didn't take that next step. Yes, it's great to have a laugh, especially at my expense. Oh, yeah, it's Data doesn't have to do the deep dive. He's just reporting what's out there that's unique and that would interest his channel, which he did, and he has given me and through his research and what he was seeing, it was validating what I was seeing independently and reading in the articles that he was posting. So my observations were validated by his observations. And then when I picked up on Igor first, then Data. So I saw Igor first, and he was validating. His stuff is way more deep dive than my stuff is. So whatever he saw was validated with what I was seeing with Comet, Atlas, and Swan, and then I made the connection with Data, and then the three of us are the only ones that are really talking Comet, Atlas, Swan, and EMP as a couple of commenters have observed, and yeah, catfish and is it catfish? But several other people too are talking about events that are happening individually. So we're not getting our news sources from the same place, which means that there really is something going on. So we're not taking the same news like the mainstream media does and the middle stream media does, grabbing news where they can and then putting together a show and doing it every night. We're deep diving into what we do. So Data reports. I do opinion pieces. The Breadcrumbs Project does opinion pieces. And mine is built on my political experience and my engineering experience, and then also my affinity for archaeology and all the ologies that you can possibly throw at me. I've done the basic studies on all of them and can render some pretty good conversations with some experts. And then some experts I'm just going to piss off because just like the whole comet is ice. We're always going to not agree because all they can do is copy and text paste or regurgitate, but they can't produce pictures and actual hard numbers that prove that any comet in the universe is made of ice. So I'm going to agree with engineers. Engineers and I are going to agree wholeheartedly. If an engineer and I do not agree, we're going to figure out what each other knows and who is has more credibility on the source and listen to them. Engineer arguments go on for maybe 5 minutes. And if there's a chalkboard available, it's over in 2. You have 2 academics that can go on about nothing for hours. And and all they are is poets. They're not philosophers. They just go on and on about something. And it's mostly whatever their thesis paper was at the beginning of their careers in when they're finally earning money. But before they earn money, they have to regurgitate, regurgitate, regurgitate. So that's their system is built on regurgitation. They take in, regurgitate it. They really aren't nutritiously based in information and data. So most of academia very much, unless they are in the hard sciences, and there's a reason they call it the hard sciences. And then there's some places like archaeology and astronomy that are in the gray sciences areas because they keep being surprised. They keep being surprised. The hard scientists are never surprised. They make discoveries, but they're rarely ever surprised. If they are surprised, it's in the lab. And it's because they're reproducing real science and no one really hears about it. But these astronomers are always surprised, surprised, surprised. Um, and so those scientists that are always surprised are the ones I argue with, and I don't argue because they can't bring anything of substance to the conversation. They don't want to have a dialectic. They want to have an argument and beat you up. And if within the first 3 or 4 minutes the conversation doesn't go right, there comes a name calling, name calling, name calling, boom, name calling. Elitist, I'm better than you, I'm frustrated, goodbye. Never happens with an engineer. An engineer pulls out the whiteboard, the blackboard, paper, and everybody syncs up. Engineers can sync up real fast. And that's where I've always learned from. All of my knowledge in computers and telephone systems has been at the foot of engineers, sitting there and just listening to what they have to say. And I learn from them, and they can prove it and show it. So enough of that. So I have the ability to dissect and bisect and render very strong opinions on government, what it does and what it says and how it operates. And I have a lot of experience in many different engineering fields and homologies. So that's where I come from. If Data and Igor and I disagree, I pretty much think that both of us, all that we could get in a room or in a conversation, and they could educate me and set me right, or I could present what I have, and I think that they'd be like, okay, good. But I don't think we should do that. I don't want to agree with Igor. I don't want to agree with Data, because when people agree, there's a problem. There's got to be people that go on their own paths and be there and have their own channels. One of the things that really disturbs me in the 80s, when I knew the media was wrong and corrupt, because all the news stations, ABC, NBC, CBS, the networks all had the same news. You could go to different channels and they were saying the same thing basically, but the words were just mixed up together. And I was like, these guys are talking, their editors are talking before the newscast, and they're agreeing to what they're going to present. They don't want to compete with each other. They want to have unity. They call it unity. But functionally, that becomes control. It's always good intentions. Everybody starts out everything with good intentions, but then finally when you have unity, it means control. Engineers don't have unity because engineers are very individualistic. They have offices. They don't work in cubicles because I don't want to hear what you're saying because I have to have my own thoughts so I can have my own credibility in what I'm presenting. So I'm basing my analysis of Comet Swan and Comet Atlas because I've been studying comets all my life. I've been studying electricity all of my life, and I learned probably about 10 years ago that we live in an electrical universe and the electrical nature of the comets. So I'm going to sign this off. I'm going to sign this chat off probably in about 30 minutes. And then I'm going to ask everybody to go watch the Thunderbolts project documentary. It's that important. We all if you're going to participate in this thread starting today, because the things I'm going to talk about, I don't want to have to re-educate people on. It's an electrical universe. Absolute and I don't agree on much, but we do agree on um, the fact that this is an electrical universe. Why? Because the engineers of the Thunderbolts project have been educating engineers, engineers, and engineers and making academia mad. So once you watch that very well done and incredibly enlightening documentary, you will also understand the hieroglyphs that and the petroglyphs that we're seeing, more the petroglyphs than the hieroglyphs. The petroglyphs that we saw in 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, live, and I'll bring that petroglyph back up in the 1 o'clock presentation. All of that's going to make sense. So guys, if you want this to make sense today, you have to watch the Thunderbolts Project movie and documentary. Epic. You sly dog, you British, oh, you redcoats, oh, how you taunt and play with us over here, the colonies, oh, you taunt and play it. Notice I'm wearing blue, I bet you're wearing red. Coincidence? Yeah. Epic, please let me know, have you seen the Thunderbolts Project movie? And I'm going to look it up and see if I can post a link to it. Let's see. And the funny thing is, um, the debunked um, of the Thunderbolts project and the electric universe is um, is not debunked at all. Nobody's debunked anything. They've just made some nonsensical statements that just never have hold water. But everything that you learn in this documentary changes the way you see the universe, and suddenly the way you see what we are doing here will change as well. So let's see if I can copy paste this into our thread. You gotta have a theme song. All right. All right. Oh, Kunwar, you've seen it. All right. Let's see. Can anybody see the link that I posted? All right. Absolute. You've seen it. Oh, very cool. All right. So, Absolute, I know you've seen this documentary, and you can testify to the hard science. And you're an electrician. You're in the field, so you're like me. You know the basics, and you can smell bullshit a mile away. All right. So there we are. All right, guys. I am going to sign off here in a minute, and I've got some things to do. and then I'll try to come back in a little while. But we'll definitely be on for 1 o'clock Eastern time, unless they do something. Um, and what was I going to say? Please, 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 in the meantime, watch this documentary. You'll understand everything that is happening. And everything's moving very, very fast right now. There's a lot of work to do. If you have a lot of doubt about what is happening, you have two videos in the link below to measure the sun or to measure your shadow and to verify that there is something, in fact, physically that you can point to that says something is not right, aside for all that is happening above. And what is happening above, we should recognize below. All right. So I'm going to go out and about. Uh, Epic, you've got the floor for a half hour, and then I'm going to close this thread and get ready for the next show. And then, and I said I call it a show because it really is. And then I think this evening is going to be quite epic. And I have to go buy a bottle of wine too, so I've got a lot. I've got a lot to do. Oh, it lagged. Did and this is, hey Doreen. All right. Um, is anybody suffering any lagging besides Epic from the stream? And just tell me if you have. The reason this window is so small that I have in my live stream is limiting the bandwidth that I take up. So and literally this stream that I present is all super duper duper uh, the word that we use in engineering is efficient. So I've had to trim as much fat. My laptop, bless its heart, is running hard, but on anything that's minimal as possible. The only way that I could do better to run it would be in a Unix platform, but I don't have time to learn a Unix streaming service. All right, thank you, Michael. Oh, Modini, this is going to be interesting. Bengaluru, India. Bengaluru, India. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I mean, we have people from all over the world here. Um, all right. Uh, we'll go over the ground rules coming up in the stream at 1 o'clock. Um, so, everybody, I'm asking you, please, please, please watch this documentary. It is the engineers bringing the science to the scientists of how the universe works, and science soundly rejecting it for no reason other than they don't understand it. Okay. Bangalore, India. Heard what? Wow, loud boom. 124. India. Oh, that's the wrong link. Oh, to Thunderbolt's project. Ah, you're right. Sorry, guys. Multitasking is difficult here. Let's see, Thunderbolts project. But Signs in the Sky is also very interesting. All right, here it is. Sorry about that, guys. And I'm glad so from what I understand, you guys can't share links in the feed, but I can share links because I'm the boss of this thing. So here's the Thunderbolts. But Signs of the Sky is very, very interesting. It should be watched because that is actually what's happening now. What we're going to be seeing in 3 days is what that first link is all about. That may be serendipitous that I put that first link in there. That is also to be watched. But this is the basic. This is the basics of that. Of that documentary. Sorry, I was reading the threads. And in this documentary, it talks about comets. Okay, so this documentary, the confusion that you have about comets will cease because I think it's probably about a third into the documentary. They discuss comets and what they really are, what they tell us, and what the true facts are. I get all of my understanding and what I've shared, my observations, which have been true again and again and again in this project and in this investigation. I base all of my understanding on this one documentary. If you want to talk about woke, this is going to woke the heck out of you, but it's going to be in a scientific way with engineers. So it will get dull to some people, and there's a bunch of y'all that are just going to get, wow, this is nerdy. Yeah, that sonic boom is interesting. All right. I'll just keep this open, Dawn. If any chance we can create a room on discuss? Yeah, yeah. If I don't know anything about discuss, but Epic, if you want to create a room and discuss, and call it the Breadcrumbs Project, I support it one bit. I don't have to own it. No, Dawn, I've been in multiple earthquakes. I was in an earthquake in Guatemala in 1976. That was an 8.2, 8.3 on the Richter scale. Leveled the country. Leveled the country. And there's no sonic boom. There's just a hard, scary rumble that you'll never forget. It's like the rumble if you're in a boxcar in a train, but just louder and more intense. And then when I was living in California and San Francisco and in Oakland before moving here to Spain, we had a bunch of earthquakes there that I slept right through. I mean, it woke me up and I was like, that's probably about a 2.6. And usually I was right on the money. I was, maybe a 0.3, 0.4 off. But the earthquakes I experienced in Oakland and mostly in Oakland, were small and they never have any loud bangs go with them. That you had shaking ground and a loud bang? What's up with that? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going around. The shake was above the ground. Absolute. What in the heck? Hi, Shu. Looking at your Reddit. What are you sent in the Reddit? See if it'll resolve in. Now that could make a loud boom. That's probably your loud boom right there. Good find, Shu. Good research. Good find. Yeah, I think that's your boom and your shaking ground right there. That would make sense. A meteor. But man, that's a doozy. No, I've in the army, I was air defense artillery, and we had a lot of low flyovers. And I've had 747s. Never had a B-52. Yeah, I've had B-52s fly really low, and they don't create a rumble, and they sure don't create a pop. I definitely think it's that meteor that they take a look at what Shu sent. How many moderators? We've got Epic. Epic's the only really one. Oh, Shu, that's right, Shu. Yes, yes. And Doreen is also a moderator. Yeah, yeah. We are. This is a tough group. We are the Stasi. All right, guys. I got to go do some things, and then in let's see. Since we have three moderators who are strict and tough, I'm going to keep the chat up probably about an hour until we start the next live. All right, so I'll keep this up until 6 Eastern, and let everybody have a break, and then start it all back up at 7. All right. So this live will be going on up until uh, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And right now, no, 6 p.m. my time. I'm so till 1 p.m. I'm so bad at time zones. God, I'm so bad at time zones. I'm so bad at time zones. That's why I've never been in the time zone industry or the time zone business, because I'm not qualified. All right, this is going to be going on till 12 o'clock Eastern. At 12 o'clock Eastern, I'm going to shut this live down, and then open the other live up at 12:30. All right. So I'm going to shut this one down at 12 and start the other one up at 12:30 Eastern. That's the real deal. And if anybody wants to start a Discuss server, you're free to do so. All right, Epic, you have responsibilities. Epic is the chat room manager. He is the boss of the chat room. The only time I think I'll step in is if somebody starts messing with Andrew again, and I will boot them. I have no problem booting somebody out. None. Yeah. All right, absolute. I understand. We all do have things to do. And Epic, I know you probably went offline for a while and did some shopping too. So I got to go buy a bottle of wine and a thing or two, my friends. All right, all right. So I'm signing off now. Thank you so much for everything, guys, and I will talk to you shortly. So think good thoughts, do good things, and really say good things. Use good words, and that's going to be practiced in this chat room. So Epic knows that I tolerate no mischief in the sense that if you're going to come here and be abusive, we are not the chat room or the live stream to do that. Now, if you want to make me look silly, I mean, I cannot believe ICUP. I fell for that one, hook, line, and sinker. That kind of mischief is always allowed, and if not, encouraged. So, peace, guys.